We are live. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great Sunday afternoon. If y'all don't know who this is, I'll be introducing myself in a moment. But as y'all come in, checking in, shout yourselves out in the comment section so I know who I'm talking to. Shout yourselves out in the comment section. Tell me your name and location. We're going to get started in about 60 seconds. It is a beautiful Sunday here in South Florida. Miami Heat series has begun, but we got to talk business here. We'll catch up on the Heat game when we catch up on it. As y'all checking in, shout yourselves out in the comment section. We're going to get into this in a minute. Hope everybody's having a good afternoon, good Sunday. Happy Easter. There was a gym that I went to this morning. They didn't announce that they were closed today, but I guess they were closed. I went to it twice and nobody was there. Then I went to the gym in my building, and guess what? Nobody was there. Nobody wanted to work out today, so I guess everybody took the day off. I didn't take the day off. I mean, success doesn't take days off. Business doesn't take days off. Your body doesn't take days off. I didn't take the day off. So shout out to everybody who took the day off for Easter, but I didn't take the day off. But that's just me. But anyway, we're going to get into this. Let me see who we got in the comments here who shouted themselves out. We got Noah checking in from Arizona. Shout out to Arizona. The desert. Shout out to everybody out there. Patrick says, do I draw inspiration from Kobe Bryant? I did a video on Kobe when he passed away. Go look that up. 369 was good. Always training. Headed to Ohio State. That's what's up. Doing that business. Belfort from Oklahoma was good. So everybody, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day. I'm a former 9-year pro ball player. Played basketball overseas for almost a decade, and I created this whole brand that became a philosophy and a framework, and now it's a business. It's called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mental tools and the strategies and the processes and the executions that allow us to be successful as athletes, and I teach professionals, business people, non-athletes, how to apply these tools at work and in everyday life. So I'm going to be doing some lives leading up to, I'm telling you why I'm doing these lives, because I got a live event coming up on May 5th and 6th. It's called Work on Your Game Live. It is specifically for the thought leaders, the entrepreneurs, the people who sell your intellectual property. So if you sell coaching, speaking, books, courses, you want to do events, you want to do workshops, anything like that where you take the knowledge in your head and you sell it for money, this event is specifically for those people. May 5th and May 6th is a 2-day event. That's a Thursday and a Friday. It is going to be virtual, so you don't have to come here to South Florida, even though it is beautiful in South Florida. You should come to South Florida for other reasons, but you don't have to come there for this event. You can stream this from your Zoom right there on your laptop or your desktop computer, and if you happen to miss a day, of course, there'll be replays for all of this. So yesterday I talked about 6 key things that every entrepreneur needs to be doing every single day. Today, I want to talk specifically about process, and actually, what I just talked about this morning is a good point to go with that process. So this gym that I went over to, because this is a gym in my building, so I don't even need this gym, but I went and said I'll check out this gym because I know somebody who knows somebody who say, oh, go check out this gym, see what's good. And I will answer all questions and comments at the end of this live once I get through with this. And so I said, all right, Sunday, I'm going to go check out this gym. I'm going to work out there. I'm going to see what's up, see who's in there. If I can meet some people in the gym, then that'll make it worth it. It'll make my whatever time I give to the gym, it'll make it worth. If I make a couple connections, it'll be worth more than whatever I got to give up in order to get into the gym. But then it wasn't open, and then I called the gym, and there was no answer to the phone. But I know the phone is going directly to a person. I know it's somebody's cell phone because I called it before, and I know it was somebody's cell phone. So then they didn't answer. Then I text, nobody responded. Then I sent them a DM on Instagram, nobody responded. And then I went home, came back to the gym, still nobody was there, and we still don't know what's going on. These people don't have a process. Then I went to their website, and they don't even have hours posted, what hours they're open in the gym. Now, I've been there before, and I talked to the owner, and he told me to open at 7 o'clock. So I went there at 7, closed, went there at 8 o'clock, closed. So I'm assuming it was just Easter, but they didn't even announce it. So is kind of crazy. But again, I'm going to answer all questions about the event at the end of this live. And to answer that quick one right there, Martine Canal, no, you do not need to have a business already, because you're going to learn the principles and the strategies. So that's what we're going to be talking about here today. We're going to be talking about processes. So no, you do not need to have a business already to get value from the event. And the event link is that one that you see there. Is also the link in my bio. So what we're talking about here today is process. And let me ask you all a question. All right, everybody here is familiar with McDonald's, right? McDonald's, the place that makes the hamburgers and the fries. I actually worked at McDonald's as a senior in high school. A lot of people don't know that. But if you were to go to a McDonald's, and let me tell you why McDonald's is what they are. McDonald's is, aside from, I think Subway has passed them, but Subway is franchised and Subway is not the same quality, I don't think, as McDonald's is as far as consistency. I'm not talking about their food, whose food is better. I'm talking about the consistency of the way that they do their work. Subway is not on the same level as McDonald's. I've seen some really trashy, terrible looking Subways. McDonald's, I don't usually see those. McDonald's is almost the exact same no matter which one you go to. So if you go to McDonald's, right? If you go to a McDonald's on downtown in your city and get a burger, a cheeseburger or a Big Mac, then you go to McDonald's uptown in your city and get the same cheeseburger or Big Mac, then you go to McDonald's across town in your city and get the same cheeseburger and Big Mac. Then you got all three of them. So you got 3 Big Macs, right? From 3 different McDonald's in the same city, and you put them down on the table and you mix them up. Now you mix them up, and then I say to you, all right, tell me which Big Mac came from the uptown McDonald's, which one came from the downtown McDonald's, which one came from the crosstown McDonald's. You could not tell me. You could not answer that question. You might guess and get it right, but you couldn't guess. You couldn't tell me over and over again by any distinctive characteristics which Big Mac was from which location. That is why McDonald's is McDonald's. The reason why McDonald's is a billion-dollar company, the reason why they have served billions of people, the reason why I or you or anyone else could get a job at McDonald's today and we would pretty much be operating the system pretty smoothly by this time tomorrow is because McDonald's has a very, very, very tight, strong, duplicatable, you can't mess it up process. That's why McDonald's is McDonald's, because their process is so tight. That's what makes them so good. The process is the main thing that makes business work. The thing that makes businesses work consistently, I'm not talking about one time, but consistently, is the fact that there is a process in place. And for all of you entrepreneurs out there, all you professionals out there, yes, you want to have an idea. Of course, you got to go out there and you got to try different things out, especially when you're first starting out. You don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. But eventually, the most important thing is you must put processes in place. Some businesses call these standard operating procedures. Some people call it the rules and regulations. There needs to be processes in place so that you can do things over and over again the exact same way. What I talked about in episode 2013 of my Work on Your Game Masterclass, for those of you who don't know, I got a daily show on all podcasting apps, SoundCloud, Apple, Spotify, all of that. It's called Work on Your Game, episode 2013. The same things, the same way, every time. That is what process means. It's always the same stuff over and over and over and over again. This is how you become a professional at what you do. My last book, The Third Day, I saw somebody mention it there in the comments. That's what it's all about. The third day is about doing the same stuff over and over and over again, even when you don't feel like doing things, even when you're tired, even when your energy's not there, even when you're like, man, this is boring. I'm doing the same stuff that I did the last 3 days, the last 3 weeks, the last 6 months. That's what process is about. And that's what makes the professionals. The fact that they can deal with the tedium of doing the same things over and over and over and over again. That's what makes somebody a pro. Is that you're always doing the same stuff. I don't know how many athletes we have who are watching this right now, whether you're watching live or you're watching this on replay. But in the sports world, when I was playing ball in college, when I was playing ball in the pros, it's the same stuff every day. Every day when we had practice, it was the same warm-up. We had to do the same drills, the same layup line. The coach said the same stuff over and over again. It was the same stuff over and over. And if you couldn't deal with the fact that it was the same stuff over and over again and keep showing up and find a way to get yourself activated, then you wouldn't perform well. You probably wouldn't show up that good in practice, and then you wouldn't get into games. And sometimes that would be a problem for me with some of my, at least in college, that'd be a problem. By the pros, I dealt with that issue. But it's the same thing in business. In business, you're doing the same stuff over and over again. So every time a customer walks through the doors of your business, you should get greeted the same way. For example, there's a Ace hardware store not far from where I'm at right now. And every time I don't go in there that often, but every time I would go in that hardware store, somebody would greet me the same way. As soon as I walked in the door, whoever the first person was who saw me, they would say, "Hey, welcome to Ace Hardware." They would make sure they made eye contact. They would make sure they said it loud enough that I heard them and they knew I was talking to them, so I would respond to them. They did it every single time. That's not because they hired a bunch of people who like saying hi to people. That's because the bosses, whoever's in charge there, said, every time somebody comes through that door, you better greet them and talk to them this way. When I worked at McDonald's, every time somebody ordered a cheeseburger, because I used to work in the back, so I'm in high school at this time when this happened. So I worked in the back on the cooking line. Somebody ordered a cheeseburger, would come up on a little computer screen, and it was basically an assembly line. Basically the same way they make cars, that's the way we made burgers. So it was an assembly line. One person was controlling the computer thing. They would see, all right, cheeseburger. So they knew to grab, there was a certain bread for the cheeseburger. You put those in a little warmer. They would go through the warmer for like 6 seconds. They would drop out the warmer. You put them on the little sheet of paper, the little yellow sheet. That's what the cheeseburger comes in. And then you put 1 squeeze of ketchup, 1 squeeze of mustard, and then you would slide it down to the next person in line. The next person will put on, I can't remember everything that went on it, but it'd be 1 pickle, a little bit of tomatoes, and a little bit of and a slice of cheese. All right, and this is the same process every single time. Then they slide it to the next person. Because that person was in the middle, right? So the person in the middle, person on one end, they would put the bread inside the little warmer and they put it on the sheet and pass it. They put the ketchup and mustard, pass it along. Then the person in the middle, they control like the pickles, the onions, the cucumbers, all the little condiments that went on it. Aside from the ketchup and mustard, they would put whatever goes on the cheeseburger on it. Then they slide it to the next person, and that person at the end, they control like all the burgers. So the cheeseburger burger, the Big Mac burgers, the Big Mac meat, the chicken nuggets, the chicken, whatever the chicken things was, the fillet of fishes, they would all be in these warmers, and then you would grab the right one, and you would put that on there, and then you would wrap the burger up, you put a little sticker on it that said cheeseburger, and then you would slide it into the warmer thing, and then the person on the front line who was taking the order and actually talking to the customers, they grabbed the cheeseburger, put it in the bag. It was the same process over and over and over and over again. McDonald's does that process through different people, probably who knows how many times a day? 100,000 times every single day? I don't know if it's 100,000. Let's just say 10,000, 50,000 times across the world. It might be 100,000 times every single day. And the process is the same whether you're working in a McDonald's in Miami, in Detroit, in London, in Belgium. The process never changes. And that's why McDonald's has been able to grow the way that they do, because it doesn't require talent. See, it doesn't require talent to work at a McDonald's. If you wanted to, for example, one of my guys, I actually need to call him as a matter of fact. The last time I seen him, he was talking about he wanted to get into franchising. He wanted to find a business to franchise. Anybody know? I want to ask this in the comment section. Does any of you know how much it costs to franchise a McDonald's? If you want to get a McDonald's franchise right now and start your own McDonald's that you own, how much does it cost? Now I know how much it did cost like 20 years ago. The price probably went up. I'm gonna look it up right now, but if anybody knows, somebody post in the comment section, how much is a McDonald's franchise? Anybody know? And I'm gonna tell you how much it costs, and I'm gonna tell you why it costs what it costs. Somebody said a lot, I'm guessing. How much is a lot? Give me a number. There's no wrong answer. I know you don't know. Anybody who's watching this, I know you don't know the answer, but tell me how much you think it costs to start a McDonald's franchise. All right, nobody has a guess. There might be a little bit of lag time between what I'm saying and any of you leaving a comment. But anyway, I'm going to give you the answer, and I'm going to tell you why. Somebody said a couple million. Somebody said 6. Someone said 25K. All right, Belford, you ain't starting no franchise with 25K. Not a McDonald's. $250,000, 50K. Nah, not McDonald's. 50K, no. 100K, no. All right, to start a McDonald's franchise, according to Investopedia, and I think this number has gone up, but we'll just go with this. Someone else said 50K. All right, y'all are thinking a little bit too small. McDonald's franchise costs between 1.3 and 2.3 million. Million with an M. 1,300,000 to $2,300,000. That's how much it costs to start a McDonald's franchise. 1.3 to 2.3 million dollars. That's just the money you have to pay them just so you can start the franchise. You didn't make $1 yet. And in order to be running that franchise, you got to have, if you want to apply, you got to have a minimum of $500,000 in liquid assets. That means you got to have $500,000 in cash that you can show them. And your franchise fee, $45,000. And then your loan to the new McDonald's franchise is between 1.3 and 2.3 million dollars. If you buy it into an existing franchise, that means somebody already has a McDonald's and you just want to buy theirs off of them, you still got to pay $1 million for that one. That's how much it costs to start a McDonald's. Belfort said Chick-fil-A was 50K, I thought. Well, Chick-fil-A ain't McDonald's. I like Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A ain't McDonald's in terms of the business. I'm not talking about the food. I'm talking about the business structure. McDonald's is light years ahead of Chick-fil-A because they've been around longer. They got way more locations and they have the best. McDonald's has the best real estate. And the reason why McDonald's franchise costs $1.3 to $2.3 million is because they know you're going to make money because the system is so damn tight. The process is so tight. The only way you can mess it up is you have to try to mess up McDonald's system. And I remember working at McDonald's when I was a senior in high school, right? McDonald's has this thing. A lot of people don't even know that this is real, but it's real. It's called Hamburger University. This is a real thing. It's called Hamburger University. If you are running a McDonald's franchise, not even the owner, but the owner has when you buy a McDonald's franchise, you have to go to Hamburger University. And this is a real place. It's a real, like a training ground where McDonald's teaches anyone who buys a franchise. They teach you this is how you run the franchise. Because even though it's yours and you're the owner, you still got to run it according to their metrics. They tell you how to run the place. You got to run it this way. Here's what the uniforms look like. Here's the kind of bread you got to buy. And mind you, when you buy a franchise, they don't give you all that stuff, like all the meat and the bread and the ketchup and the fries and the McFlurries and all that stuff. You got to buy that stuff. So you're going to buy into a McDonald's business. They supply some stuff, but you got to pay for the stuff. As you keep selling burgers, you got to buy more burgers. You keep selling fries, you got to buy little cartons that the fries come in. The bags that you get your food in. Imagine if you're selling 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 orders a day. You got to buy bags so you can give people a bag with their food every time they buy stuff. You got to buy all that stuff. Now, McDonald's can charge that much because they know you're going to make money. The way they know you're going to make money is because their system is so tight, because their process is that tight. And they send you to Hamburger University when you buy a franchise. If you are a manager at a McDonald's, like the head manager of McDonald's, because I remember the head manager, I forget this woman's name. Damn, I think her name might have been Mary. But anyway, she had a binder. Those thick binders they give you when you go to like a course or something, and they give you this thick binder with all the paperwork and all the stuff in it. She used to carry around this binder, and it said on it Hamburger University. I thought it was a joke, but it was a real thing. I'm like, there's a real place called Hamburger University? She was like, yeah. I had to go there, and they taught me how to run the store. And they taught her how to be a manager at McDonald's. Here's how you hire people. Here's how you teach them the operating procedures. Here's how everything runs. Here's how every piece of equipment in the store works. And she had to know this stuff. And you got to pass tests. If you don't pass the test, you can't become a manager. That is their process there at McDonald's. And I'm telling you all that to tell you this. McDonald's is as successful as they are not because their burgers are so great. Like, how many of you who's watching this right now, wherever you live, there's a place in your town that makes a burger that is better than McDonald's burgers? How many of you live somewhere where if I told you I want to go to the best place to get a burger and fries, you could send me somewhere that's better than McDonald's? Wherever you live, in your city, there's somewhere in your town that can give me a burger and fries meal that's better than what McDonald's serves. Is there anyone here who can't do that? Everybody here can do that. Now, I can name probably 10 places in this town right now off the top of my head, and I don't even eat burgers and fries like that, that are better quality than McDonald's stuff. But I cannot name, let me tell you what I can't name, not one business in this town that has a system that is as tight as McDonald's to where they can franchise out their business and have a whole bunch of other people run it and know that they're going to make money, that they can charge $2 million just for you to start a location. There's a lot of businesses around here that is one location, one person, one talented individual, and they might be doing good, but it's only one location. This is when you know you're good, folks. You know you're good when your system is duplicatable, meaning you can take what you did and the process that you follow, and you can have somebody else do it, and they get the exact same result. That's when you know you have a process. It's not a process if it's just you, and because you're so talented or you're so hard working and you got so much skill that you do stuff and you make it all work, and people are like, all right, yeah, it worked for you, but can you make it work for somebody else? That's when you know you have a process. You can take your system, teach it to another person. All they got to do is follow what you told them to do, step by step, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they get the exact same result. You know exactly what they're going to get. When that's happening, that's when you can start franchising out your ideas. And it doesn't have to be a McDonald's. It doesn't have to be like a burger shop. It could be a course. It can be a coaching program. It could be a lesson that you teach. It could be whatever. This is how a company, like, look at car companies. All right, how many times do you see somebody on the road driving the same car that you drive? The reason why they can sell so many different cars of the exact same car is because they have mastered the process of making that car. So everybody who has a Ford Taurus, 2022 Ford Taurus, they're all exactly the same. Like under the hood, all of those cars look exactly the same. Unless the owner modified it, they're exactly the same under the hood. You couldn't tell the difference between yours and theirs and theirs and theirs over there because they're all the same. The process is exactly the same every single time. So what does all this have to do with you? All right, because I'm not here telling you that you need to start a McDonald's or sell cars. What I'm telling you is that the things that you do, just you yourself personally, you need to have processes in place. While I get it that you might feel that you are extremely talented and you got a lot of game and you got a lot of ideas and you're a hard-working individual and all the positive things that you can say about yourself, the challenge is this. If you are doing your work and you're succeeding right now based on talent, based on just the fact that you're really good and that you can talk your way into or out of any room, you can talk circles around any individual, you can sell anybody, you got all this game and all this skill. Here's the challenge. At some point, you might not be around to do the work. What if you can't do the work yourself? Then what happens? What if your process, or if you only have a process, let's just back up. Let's say you don't even have a process and you need to teach somebody else to do the work for you. What if you needed to do your own work, but you had to follow whatever process you have? You had to write down everything that you do to achieve your outcomes. You had to write it down, and then you could only follow what you wrote down. Could you even write down your own process? Do you even know what your process is? Now, let me give you some clues and some hints that can help you out here. First of all, any area of your life in which you are creating sustained, consistent success, whether that's in your finances, whether it's with your relationships, whether it's your physical fitness, whether it's your business, whether it's your health, your happiness, your whatever, I guarantee you there's a process in place there, whether you know about it or you don't. Because often in life, we do things habitually over and over again, and sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it. So understand something. 85% of the things that we do as human beings are habitual and unconscious, meaning we don't even realize that we're doing them, but we do it over and over again by sheer force of habit. Human beings are creatures of habit. 85% of what we do is habit. Only 15% of our thoughts and 15% of our actions are things that we got to actually think about. What am I doing? Everything else, we just do it automatically. So look at your life and look at the areas in which you're getting the kind of success you want. There's a process in place there. Now the question is, can you codify that process? That just means take what you're doing and actually make it conscious so that you can show it to another person. They can read it on a piece of paper and they can follow it and get results. So if you couldn't do work for a week, right, look at your work, whatever you do for work right now. If you couldn't work for a week, could you take someone else and tell them what to do based on your process, and could they produce the same result that you produce without you? I'm talking about the parts that don't require you, because there might be some parts of your business that it has to be you. So if you're a professional speaker, for example, you can't have somebody else give your speech. But let's say the parts that anybody could do, could you tell somebody your process and just have them follow it, and could they produce results? If the answer is no, then that means you need to get a process in place. If you personally had to document everything you do in your own business, you had to write it down, and then you had to follow your own documentation, would it make sense? And could you actually produce results in your own business based on your own words and your own documentation? In other words, do you even know what your own process is? Do you even have a process? Many businesses out here, especially mom and pop type places or businesses where it's just one location or one person or one thing, many of them are running strictly off of the talent of the person in charge. And I'm not just talking about an individual who's like an Instagrammer or an IG model or a speaker or a coach or something like that. There are many businesses like that fit the description, but also I'm talking about brick and mortar businesses. You could be running a gym, a fitness center, a spa, a car repair shop. You could be putting stereos in people's vehicles. You could be putting rims on trucks. There are businesses out there that are running strictly off the talent of the person in charge. In other words, the person in charge decides what to do. They're a hard worker. They're a diligent person. They have talent. So they figure out how to do it. Then they start doing it. Then they charge money for it. And they make money. And then they just keep doing it. Why? Because it's working. The challenge is eventually it stops working. Challenge is anytime that you're doing something that is not based on process, it's just based on talent and hard work and effort and good timing, eventually is going to stop working. And then what are you going to do? So what I'm suggesting for all of you, if you don't have a process in place, is that you put it in place before it becomes an emergency situation. Because eventually, with no process, you will run into an emergency. So here's the thing, and here's the bigger picture to everything, even to that, is that being a professional, folks, is not about wearing a suit and a tie. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about having a business card or an office. Being a professional is about the fact that you can produce a result over and over and over again based on a process that you have in place. Not based on you, but based on a process that you have in place. That's what being a professional is about. And the reason why we pay professionals for the stuff that we pay them for, whether it's a personal trainer, is an auto repair, whether the window's broken in your living room and you call the glass guy to come fix it. The reason why we pay a professional is because we know exactly what we're going to get every single time, and they deliver every single time. That's what makes somebody a professional. We know what we're going to get, we ask for it, and they do it. It does not matter, and there's very little variance from one point to the next. From one data point to the next, there is very little variance, meaning it looks exactly the same every time. So, for example, if I'm a salesperson, I got a sales company, and I'm taking incoming calls. I got an ad out there, and I'm asking people to call me. They calling me off Google Ads. Every time somebody calls me, that phone call should sound exactly the same every time. I greet you the same way. I ask the same questions every time. I make the same offers, and I close you the same way every single time. That's professional. Now, if I'm just answering the phone and I'm just winging it and figuring out how to talk to you with each different call, that's not a process. And the problem is, I can't teach somebody else to do that. You can't teach talent. You can teach a process. That's why process matters so much. See, McDonald's is not based on talent. All right, how talented do you have to be to work at McDonald's? You could take somebody who's sleeping under the bridge right now, as long as they get them a shower, give them some clean clothes, as long as they can talk, or they can work at McDonald's. Why? Because the process is so good, you don't need any skill whatsoever to work there. That's why McDonald's is McDonald's. Now, looking at your business and what you do professionally, how much talent is required for somebody to do what you do? If it requires a high level of talent, you actually have a challenge. Even if your business is clicking right now and everything's working, you still have a challenge, because how are you going to get anybody else to do it? How are you ever going to retire from doing your job if it requires talent? Because how many people out there have as much talent as you have? Probably very few, right? So how are you ever going to retire? You're going to literally work yourself to death, because nobody else can do what you do because there's no process. So your job is to deconstruct what you're doing to create the process. And I'm going to answer questions in 1 second. So a professional, we know exactly what we're getting from the professional as a consumer. Now, if you are the professional, you need to know exactly what you're doing every day, meaning the same things, the same way, every time. So, question is, what do you deliver? What can you promise? And what systems do you have in place that guarantees that you can do it every single time the same way? 3 questions again. I'm going to answer all questions. Number 1, what do you deliver? Number 2, what promise can you make? And number 3, what process do you have in place to know that you can deliver the exact same outcome every single time? If you cannot answer these 3 questions, you do not have a process, but you need one. And at Work on Your Game Live, that link right there, May 5th and 6th, workonyourgame.live is the link if you're watching this on replay. And there's also the link in my bio on IG. Is also the link if I'm posting this on YouTube, it'll be there too. That is where you get your ticket. And we're going to talk about process a lot on day 2. Day 1 is mindset and strategy. Day 2 is execution and process. We'll be talking about process all the way deep on day 2 of Work on Your Game Live. So let me answer questions. Whoever has a question here. We are talking about process for everybody who is listening here today. To recap my points, again, if you went to a McDonald's, 3 different McDonald's in your town, and you bought the same burger from all 3 McDonald's, you couldn't tell which one came from which store. Why? Because McDonald's process is so tight that every single store produces the exact same outcome every single time. That is process, that's professionalism, and that's why it costs $2.3 million to start a McDonald's, because they guarantee you're going to make money because they know how their process is. They know their process works. That's why you very rarely do you see a McDonald's closing down. How often do you see a McDonald's go out of business? Very rarely. McDonald's doesn't go out of business. You know why? Because their process is so tight, they know you're going to make money. And that's why you got to pay them $2 million just to even start your own store, because they know the money's coming in. That's why you got to have a process. So if you couldn't work for a week, could somebody else do the non-you parts of your job based on your process? Oh, you don't have a process. Oh, so nobody can do your job. So if you got sick, nobody can do anything in your business, and your business is stagnates because you have no process. Even if you have no employees right now, if I gave you an employee right now, could you just give them a document and say, all right, just follow this, and you'll be helping my business out? Oh, you don't have a document. Oh, you don't have any documentation. Oh, no wonder. All right, so this is why you got to have a process in place, folks. Could you do your own job based on your documentation? Probably not. If you're doing things off of talent, the problem is eventually your talent will run dry, and that is a problem. So let's see what we got here. Mady says, what's my opinion about resistance bands training for basketball upper body strength? You got to ask me a better question than that, and also a question that's on the topic. Mady strength, that has nothing to do with this topic. Martine says, do you have a business? Oh, I answered that one. So no, you do not need to have a business already to come to Work on Your Game live, but you will have the pieces to get started, because you'll have the principles, which is the foundation, and that's actually what a lot of business people need. A lot of business people start a business with no foundation, and then they got to work backwards to do the stuff they should have did from the beginning. Always Training says, sounds like the gym owner needs to read the third day. No, he needs to come to Work on Your Game live is what he needs to do, because they might have been closed today, but he didn't say it. So that's the part that I'm actually pointing out, is that they don't have a process to let people know that they were closed today. That's the process that was crazy. Let's see what else we got here. Dabberdean, what's going on? Belfort said, for sure, everybody in the chat better know at least 10. Andy, what's going on? Belfort said, would you be willing to share your process or system to those at Work on Your Game Live that want to grow their influence and revenue? Of course, that's why I'm having an event, Belfort. What do you mean? If I have an event, I'm not going to hold anything back. So when you come to my event, I mean, look at what I just gave you. So I Work on Your Game Live. Day one, we're going to be talking about mindset and strategy. So on day one, and this event is specifically for entrepreneurs who are in the thought leadership space, meaning you are taking knowledge in your head and you are selling it, whether as a course, a coaching, workshops, any kind of programs. You want to do your own events, you're doing any kind of training, you're writing books, anything that takes knowledge out of your head and you package it up in a way that you sell it for money. We call that thought leadership, or we call that intellectual property. Anyone who's doing that, on day one, we're going to talk mindset and strategy. Okay? Mindset and strategy is about you understanding what business you're in, why you're in this business, and the overall strategies, the principles. First of all, first is principles, then it's strategies, then it's tactics. A lot of entrepreneurs work in the opposite direction. They do a whole bunch of random tactics, then they try to figure out a strategy, then they don't even know anything about principles. They don't even know that they're missing the principles. We're going to do it the right way. Principles, strategies, tactics. That's on day one. On day two, we're going to talk about process and execution, actually doing things. How do you do these things? How do you put your process in place? How do you make sure that it's working? That's on day two. So at Work on Your Game Live, Belfort, to answer your question, absolutely 100%. I'm going to give you everything you need to know about process, and not only everything you need to know, but everything you need to do. But you got to get the knowing part first. Being, then doing, then having. There's a process to this. Be, do, have. So everything that I talk about, we always talk process. Process is very important, and a lot of people, entrepreneurs or not, just don't even understand. They don't even grasp that they need to have processes in place when they're doing stuff. But we're going to solve all of that on May 5th and 6th at Work on Your Game Live. Belfort says, how do you create your own process? Well, the simple answer is you deconstruct what works. Now, if you don't know what works, come to Work on Your Game Live and I will explain that, because I will use myself as an example and show you how I can deconstruct processes, and I can do that for anybody, because that's my superpower is strategizing, analyzing, and helping people execute. So mindset, strategy, accountability, execution. Those are the things that I am great at. I create processes for these things, and I help people deconstruct and build their own processes. That's what I do. That's why I'm having this event, and that's why it's about what it's about. Let's see who else. CT Jams, what's going on? How are you? Belfort says, which day will you be talking about frameworks. Well, we're going to touch on them on both days, because a framework is something people need to understand mindset-wise and strategy-wise, and then actually creating them. We're going to talk about it on both days. So mindset and strategy, you're going to talk about frameworks, because a framework is part of a strategy. And then how do you actually make one? That'll be on the second day, strategy and execution. So both. I mean, if you get a ticket, you got both days. So Belfort, I mean, what does it even matter? Yeah, if you got a ticket, you got access to all of it. So both days. Always Training says, how quick would switch processes if it isn't working? Well, that's a good question, Always Training, but we got to ask a different question before we even get to that question. Is we got to back up and ask ourselves, how do we know what working means? How do you know if something's working? What's your definition of working? And see, this is another thing. I'm glad you asked that question, because this is another thing that a lot of people don't understand. They use that language. I'm not saying you personally, but a lot of people use that language and they can't even define the word. So somebody says, well, I put out my course, Dre, and it's not working. And I'm like, well, how do you define working? And they can't answer the question. Is working mean you sold 1 copy of your course? Is working you need to sell 10 copies? Do you need to sell 100? You need to sell 1,000? How do you know if something's working or not? So a lot of people can't even answer that question, but then they throw around this word working. So that's part of what we're going to talk about on day 1. Mindset and strategy. How do you measure your results? If you don't have a way of measuring a result, then you can't put a label on it as if it's working, not working, this is good, this is bad. So somebody said something to me in one of my mastermind calls not too long ago. They said, well, I put this post up on Instagram and I got 50 likes. Is that good? Well, I said, well, how do you define good? Like, they couldn't answer, so I can't answer either. So if you don't have a measurable for what's working, not working, good, bad, I'm making money, I'm not making money, all right, is making money you sold 1 or is making money you sold 100? How do we know? We need to have measurables in place. All of that will be covered on day 1 of Work on Your Game Live. Belfort says, can you show up, I ask questions or answer those? Let's see what else. Belfort says, talent equals temporary, system process equals longevity and sustainable. Somewhat. You got the general idea. Let's see what else we got here. We are talking about process here for everybody who came in the middle of this. And Work on Your Game Live, which is May 5th and 6th. It's Thursday and Friday. It's a virtual event. You can attend it right from wherever you are right now. Don't be on your phone though, be on your computer so you can take notes. That'll be a 2-day event for all thought leaders and people who sell intellectual property, coaching, speaking, books, authoring, programs, courses. Anybody who sells the knowledge that is in your head, you package it up to make money, or you want to do that, this event is for you. May 5th and 6th, workonyourgame.live is where you get your ticket. 369 said, I wrote an ebook about how to develop your own strength program. I think this would be considered a process. Yes, it would be considered a process. Now we got to make sure that process is working. As long as you can prove that it works, of course, it should work for you, and then get other people to get it working for them. You get some testimonials, you can sell more of those ebooks. That's a good idea. So I'm glad you did that. Belfort said, I will be there. All right, that's what's up. Looking forward to seeing you. 369 said it's free, but it's like a lead generator because they read the book and still want more help. They can pay for one-on-one. What do you think? Generally, I understand the idea. I understand the concept. Generally, yes. But I think you said you're going to be at Work on Your Game Live, 369. So whatever you got, bring it to the event. I'm not saying the book itself, but bring the idea or your questions to the event, and I answer all questions. So anybody comes to any of my events, nobody leaves my events with a question that was not answered. That's a guarantee. So anybody comes to any of my events, every question that you have will be answered. So if you got questions before the event, write them down and have them ready. And any questions that come up while we're in the event, write them down and I will answer them. So every question will get answered at Work on Your Game Live. But 369, I understand the general idea. Bring people into your world with the free thing, and then it leads them to possibly hiring you to work with them further. The general concept I get. Always Training says, if the checks are coming in and any employee can repeat the written process, then it's working. So checks are coming in. How many checks? Always Training. That language is too vague. How many checks need to come in? 2 checks? 20? 200? 2,000? Checks are coming in is not a measurable, is not a measurable, what's the word I'm looking for? Variable. So we are talking Work on Your Game Live for everybody who is coming in the room right now. I'm just taking a couple questions. Today, we're talking about process, because process is the key to having a sustainable business. Listen, you can have a temporary business on hard work, good timing, good luck, and talent. But if you want to have a sustainable business, something that lasts, you have to have a process in place so that you can do the same things the same way every time. Think about McDonald's. McDonald's been around for as long as all of us have been alive. Why? Not because they got the best burgers, not because they got the highest quality ingredients. Most people I don't even eat McDonald's. I don't remember the last time I went inside of a McDonald's. Actually, I was in Europe last summer. I went inside it just to see what it was like. I didn't buy anything. I just went in just to see what is McDonald's like outside of the USA. But I haven't bought anything from McDonald's, and I can't remember the last time I made a purchase at McDonald's. But I still use them as an example because they have a tight system. I could get a job at McDonald's right now and be running that place by the end of the week. Not because I'm so good, but because their process is so tight that you can't mess it up. That's what makes them great. So you want to be thinking along those lines. Now, this is work. I want y'all to understand, putting a process in place is not easy. It's work, but it's not rocket science. Like, it's not like you're going to be stumped as to how to do this. Once you understand the basic building blocks of building a process, you can do this with anything and everything that you do in life. You can have a process in place. Any of you who's in good shape, there's a process for you being in good shape. You got good relationships, there's a process for you maintaining those relationships. You're steady with your money, there's a process for that. And anything that's not working in your life, there's a reason why it's not working, because there's not a process in place. Or there is a process, but it's a faulty process. It's a process that just clearly is not working. You need a better process. So all of this stuff can be broken down in a strategic, systemic way. And we're going to be doing all of that at Work on Your Game live May 5th and 6th. Saturday's May 5th and 6th. That's Thursday and Friday. It is a virtual event, so you don't have to come down here to South Florida, even though it is beautiful. If I may say so myself, it is beautiful down here in South Florida. But that's the place that you can get this virtual, so nobody has to travel, so you don't have to pay for a flight, hotel, no food, all of that. Just stay right there in your house, and I will address everything for you. Mindset and strategy day 1, process and execution on day 2. No fluff, no BS, no shenanigans, just straight game, as usual. Bell said, I'm excited about Work on Your Game Live. I love the books, love the Work on Your Game Live you went to in person. This one speaks to exactly where you are. Thanks for doing this. 369 fam said the same thing. All right, well, I'm looking forward to seeing both of y'all Work on Your Game Live. Bring your questions, bring your challenges, bring whatever you are working on. And the great thing is, you can get personalized attention, get all your questions answered. Like I said, nobody leaves any of my events without getting their questions answered. You will not leave with any question marks. Let's put it that way. Whatever question marks you come with, they will be addressed. All right, anybody else got a question? I'll take a couple more before I wrap this one up. The Heat game is on right now. I think they're going to beat the Hawks, but I might watch a little bit of it. Actually, no, I'm lying. I'm not really going to watch it. I got work to do. I'm putting together processes myself right now. So I got a bunch of processes that I'm working on, back-end stuff, kind of stuff that y'all won't see, but the results will be felt. So that's really what I'm working on right now. Belfer says, do you have any material on maximizing, creating, and cultivating a network to grow your business? Yeah, actually, we're going to talk about that at Work on Your Game Live. Actually, on the page, I believe that's on day 2. When we talk about relationship building and Dream 100 process, you might not know what Dream 100 is, but I'll talk about that on day 2. So that's networking. Relationships, networking is the same thing. So politics, relationships, networking, they all mean the exact same thing. We're going to talk about that on day 2. So building relationships, getting yourself known by the people who you want to be known by, making the kind of connections that you want to make, that is all covered day 2, Work on Your Game Live. So good question. Yes, we will be addressing that. So glad you asked. All right, so you set me up for that. So for those of y'all, I didn't ask Belford to come in here with these questions. This is not a setup. He just came with the question. But yes, we are covering that. And y'all can see that if you just go to that link right there, workonyourgame.live is the link in my bio on Instagram. Y'all can see everything that's going to be covered on day 1 and day 2. I have it laid out on the page, so I'm not making this up while I'm talking. It's already laid out on the page. Workonyourgame.live is where you get your ticket to my next live event. Again, virtual event, 2 days, 1 ticket, both days. You get access to everything, all questions, replays, all of that stuff. All right, so everybody, I am wrapping this one up. I need to stop talking. I need to give myself something to eat, and I got work to do. I got processes to work on. Just like I'm telling y'all, everything that I talk to y'all about, I do myself. I'm not just telling y'all stuff randomly. I actually do this stuff. So everybody have a good afternoon, great Sunday, happy Easter to everyone. And Martine, are you going to be, am I pronouncing your name right? Martine Canal, are you going to be at Work on Your Game Live since you came in? So this is the last question that I'm asking. Are you going to be at Work on Your Game Live? No doubt Belfort. So I'm waiting for Martine. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Will you be at Work on Your Game? All right, there we go. So Martine's coming to Work on Your Game Live. So there y'all go, everybody. Y'all have a happy Easter. I will see y'all. I'm going to do another live. I'll be doing lives leading up to this event. So the next couple weeks, today's what, the 17th? So the next couple weeks, I'm going to be doing lives almost every day. So y'all stay tuned. Just follow me. Y'all know what it is. Work on your game. We out here. Dre all day.